Today, we embark on the thrilling journey into the heart of the biggest Animal Crossing controversies that rocked the community. For 2 decades, Animal Crossing has captured the hearts of millions, inviting us to bask in the serene beauty of village life, forging friendships with charming villagers, and indulging in the simple joys of fishing, bug catching, and interior decorating. But beneath the idyllic facade lies a tapestry woven with historic moments that were defining for Animal Crossing. These are the biggest Animal Crossing controversies to date. Whether it's the timeless red tulip letter where Nintendo accidentally sent corrupted data to Animal Crossing players, or activists using the platform of Animal Crossing to promote questionable notoriety. We definitely have a lot to jump into, so make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get started. Let's begin with the red tulip incident, a fateful day when a simple letter sent out by Nintendo delivered a glitch that brought chaos and despair to unsuspecting Animal Crossing players. It started on January 26th, 2006, a little over a year after Animal Crossing Wild World released for the Nintendo DS. On this day, some players who connected to the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection received a cryptic letter shrouded in mystery. This letter seemed like an innocuous blank letter sent from Nintendo with a weird item known as red tulips. Little did players know that this seemingly harmless gift held the power to unleash havoc upon their Animal Crossing lives. Unbeknownst to players, the red tulip harbored this glitch, which was capable of corrupting their saved game data for their town. When placed on the floor inside of their house, an invisible and unmovable wall would materialize in affected homes, rendering the area in the house essentially useless. Upon this letter becoming widespread and fans of Animal Crossing going online to forums to try to figure out what was going on in their town, many people noticed that they weren't alone in who received the red tulips from Nintendo. Some fans even speculated that somehow hackers had gained access to the Nintendo servers and were sending out files that would corrupt their Animal Crossing towns, and that maybe Nintendo's online servers had been compromised. As the news spread like wildfire in the Animal Crossing community, Nintendo did recognize the gravity of the situation and swiftly issued an official statement acknowledging their role in the unfortunate incident. Nintendo would end up making a statement admitting that the glitch was a result of an internal error during the upload process of exclusive gifts sent to players, and they assured the community that it was not the work of malicious hackers, but an unintentional oversight within their systems. In an attempt to mitigate the damage, Nintendo advised affected players to delete the glitched red tulips letter as soon as possible. However, at the time that the statement was made, many players had already opened the letter and placed the items inside of their house. Now, this was tragic for some players who obviously wanted to deck their house out perfectly, or maybe put it in a location in their house that they wanted to eventually put something else, as that space would remain completely unusable, which was pretty harsh. This actually caused some players to completely restart their save files because they didn't want to not be able to use their house completely. On the other hand, there were some instances of players reporting that their game save file would be completely corrupted upon using the tulip in their house once again. And since this was the earliest days of YouTube, there weren't too much out there in the form of video footage documenting this story. So the details exactly of how this glitch is rather vague, though it seems like through forum posts, this letter would continuously be sent out for about a year on and off based on players who just would connect to the Nintendo Wi-Fi servers. Still, there was always something creepy about getting a letter in your game that was just mysteriously there. It had a weird subject line and no text, just one item that could break your actual game. That's not the first time Nintendo had something in Animal Crossing show up that players definitely were not supposed to see. Fast forward 2 years, we can look at the Animal Crossing City Folk review Slur disaster. This next story ended up happening in 2008, just prior to the release of Animal Crossing City Folk for the Nintendo Wii. Now, some of you might remember that Animal Crossing City Folk for the Wii did have some sort of connection and transfer system connected with Animal Crossing Wild World for the Nintendo DS. And as the release date for Animal Crossing City Folk drew near, many journalists eagerly awaited their review copies, anticipating the opportunity to explore the newest installment of Animal Crossing prior to the full release of the game. Now, Nintendo, wanting to show off how the game is innovative with allowing players to transfer data from Animal Crossing Wild World into City Folk, journalists also received copies of of Animal Crossing Wild World alongside their review copy of City Folk, the Wild World already had existing save data on there so that reviewers could quickly test out the feature. However, within this seemingly innocuous package, an unexpected controversy lay hidden. On December 3rd, reports emerged that one of the Animal Crossing characters in the modified copies of Wild World had its customizable catchphrase edited to a very derogatory term. It's the big racial slur that we shouldn't say, ever. Somehow, this offensive slur had slipped past the game's profanity detection system, designed to prevent players from setting inappropriate characters in dialogue, as it used different versions of the letters from the keyboard. And someone somewhere programmed it so that a villager would say this phrase. Nintendo quickly issued an apology, noting that there were only 14 members of the media who received these copies of Animal Crossing Wild World, and that the phrase was included without their knowledge due to a wireless function that allows user-generated catchphrases to spread virally from one game to the next whenever a game file interacts with another game. They iterated that this version of the game is definitely not available at retailers, and they apologized for the incident and requested that the 14 members of media who received the copy of the game return the cards to Nintendo immediately. Now, I think for the most part, people understand how this could potentially happen, as in Wild World, I guess there was a way that your villager would pick up other catchphrases from other people's towns. There's already a function like that that works in even Animal Crossing New Horizons, where villagers will say catchphrases from other villagers within your own island, but it does appear that Nintendo has removed the feature of taking catchphrases from other players' islands and having them on your own villagers, as when you get a villager from another island, their catchphrase is now reset. I don't think anybody really overtly thought that this was intentional when it happened, though it definitely was a major oversight and not a good look for Nintendo. But this isn't the only time Nintendo has been criticized for lacking cultural inclusivity, along with also missing the mark when it comes to racial sensitivity. Let's talk about the Cat 13 villager recently discovered in the original Animal Crossing game files. Now, some of you may have heard about the issue with Nintendo and Pokemon all the way back in the 90s when it came to some controversy surrounding racial stereotypes. You may have heard of the story or maybe even remember it from your own childhood, but the character at the center of one of the biggest controversies Nintendo had ever faced was the Pokemon Jinx, a Pokemon known for its humanoid appearance, and notably it had black skin with some exaggerated features. After the release of Pokemon and the popularity that those games had in the West, Jinx's design drew quite a bit of criticism, with some people arguing that it resembled blackface, a racial caricature associated with offensive stereotypes. Now, the accusation against Jinx was a pretty big turning point for Nintendo, as they faced scrutiny over the portrayal of a character that could be interpreted as racially insensitive. The controversy did prompt a reevaluation of their character designs, and it seemed like internally there was a commitment to avoid these types of missteps in the future. Later iterations of Jinx would be redesigned to purple and then almost a pinkish color to the face, and even when the original Pokemon games were re-released on the 3DS a few years ago, despite the fact that the original Pokemon games didn't have a color palette allowing for the pink color that's found in Jinx's face, they modified the emulation program on the 3DS and recolored Jinx, going beyond what was capable in the original Game Boy. Now, of course, this happened in the 90s, so fast forward to the release of Animal Crossing on the GameCube, it appears, based on what was recently discovered in the Animal Crossing game files, that in the early development stages, there was a cat villager that was designed with features that maybe could be criticized as looking reminiscent of blackface. At some point, Nintendo must have realized that this character could cause potential issues mirroring the previous controversies surrounding Jinx, and thus this character was cut from the full release of the game. Now, a little while back, we actually did a video looking at cut content from Animal Crossing, and at the time I was ignorant in my video, not even realizing the significance of why this villager was cut, until some people in the comments kind of pointed out that, yeah, it looks maybe kind of like blackface, which makes a lot of sense why this character would end up getting cut. This one never ended up spiraling out to be a massive controversy, just something that maybe Nintendo managed to dodge the bullet on. It could be that Nintendo had learned from their previous experiences and took proactive approaches to avoiding perpetuating what could be seen as a racial stereotype in a game like Animal Crossing. Though it seems like Animal Crossing has always had some criticisms looming over this franchise for not having the best customizable options in a game that should allow for quite a bit of customization in regards to self-appearance if you're a person of color. It wasn't until City Folk where you could actually kind of do something about the way that your character looked, where you could at least go and get your Me character put over your villager, and in that case you could have some sort of option to change your skin color, and it wouldn't be all the way until Animal Crossing New Horizons where you finally were able to have a skin color other than white. When it comes to video games that are released from Eastern countries, this is kind of commonplace in a lot of games that have customization.
This is like the most whitest black man I've ever seen in my life. The most whitest black man.
Though, if the game is going to be released in the West or see a release globally, it's surprising it took all the way until 2020 for Nintendo to finally implement this as an option. Oh, but the city folk drama doesn't stop there. Do you guys remember when there was a news release trying to demonize Animal Crossing as an unsafe game?
Well, tonight, police have a warning for parents about a popular gaming system and a way it's being used to put your children at risk.
That's right. This is the game, and you actually create your own character, house, and even town. And when connected to the internet, you can talk to people across the country. And kids have no say as to what some of these characters say to them. For example, this character could be the man in California police are warning about tonight that asked for images from Missouri children.
Yeah, this one's a wild one. It started when this local news channel aired a segment that accused Tortimer, the wise and elderly mayor from the Animal Crossing games, as potentially being a child predator. And I don't know what was going on with this news report. It seemed like they thought that this was another player online when really it's just a non-playable character that's just a chill dude. And the interesting thing is this reached far beyond just the Animal Crossing community when this first was then re-uploaded onto YouTube. People who knew nothing about Animal Crossing were already skeptical, but many players who were familiar with Animal Crossing found it difficult to believe that such serious accusations could be leveled against a character who was renowned for his wisdom and kindness. It's been kind of funny, the community united around this really terrible news report and sensationalist hit piece on Nintendo, just designed to generate fear and attract attention, and from that a ton of memes and jokes flooded the internet, with players humorously highlighting the absurdity of these accusations. This incident came to become known as one of the biggest jokes in the Animal Crossing community, as players rallied behind Tortimer, celebrating his innocence and ridiculing the unfounded claims made in this news report. Next, let's talk about the Animal Crossing New Horizons PETA protests. Yeah, back when Animal Crossing New Horizons first came out, there was a lot of hype and excitement around the game, and then some interesting things happened. PETA actually set up an interesting boycott of Blather's museum in Animal Crossing New Horizons, and made this whole video on their Twitter account, which showed Animal Crossing avatars wearing PETA merchandise and actively protesting against Blathers and the museum. Now, this also came after they shortly released a vegan guide to Animal Crossing that encouraged players to avoid doing things that are in the game, like fishing and digging up clams. Now, in response to this, the community was pretty negative towards PETA's video. However, PETA seemed to just kind of ignore the criticism and used memes to dismiss actual critiques. And the overall idea that PETA was trying to convey is that while this is a video game, it can act as a model for how people should treat the real world around them, and was calling for Blathers to remove fish from the museum, as taking fish from natural habitats and display on a museum goes against what PETA believes in. Of course, everybody realizes Blathers is a fictional character, so it's a little bit weird of a thing, but this was just a wild time. This was like March 2020 full swing, and you know what? Despite the weirdness of it, I did kind of low-key enjoy when Animal Crossing was such in the public's eye around the time of the release that weird stuff like this was happening in general. Like Joe Biden had an Animal Crossing town, and there were makeup brands launching directly through Animal Crossing. Wendy's, the restaurant, had an Animal Crossing town. It was just a really weird time, and this was a controversy and a silly one, but still kind of shows how massive Animal Crossing was during the peak release time of the game. But this isn't the only controversy surrounding Animal Crossing New Horizons and people coming together to protest something. Let's talk about the Animal Crossing Hong Kong protests. In April of 2020, Animal Crossing got outright banned from sale in China amid the Hong Kong protests, as Animal Crossing was a platform that was being used by activists to criticize China. Since Animal Crossing allows you to upload custom art pieces, people were using this as an opportunity to further their voices and increase awareness. And since at the time the pandemic had halted public demonstrations, Animal Crossing was an outlet that many people were using at the time to echo the importance of democracy in Hong Kong. And with the first month of Animal Crossing New Horizons releasing, so many people using user-created images to speak up about the issue, of course, Animal Crossing ends up getting banned. Next, let's look at the gender stereotype issue from across all Animal Crossing titles. In the original Animal Crossing game released in 2001, there were noticeable gender distinctions in clothing options. For the most part, male characters were typically offered Viking hats and more masculine outfits, while female characters were given princess hats and other stereotypical feminine clothing. However, as the series progressed, these gender stereotypes did begin to fade. For instance, in Animal Crossing New Leaf, which originally released in 2012, players were able to have more freedom in the terms of clothing choices, and the game actually acknowledged the changing times through some dialogue that Mabel had, where she mentioned keeping up with current trends and being more inclusive and supportive to whatever the player wants to wear. Remember, in the earliest games, you had to straight up pick if you were a boy or girl through a series of dialogue, which in a lot of cases could easily result in Rover or Cap'n misgendering the player right away. It was no big deal back then, it was just a part of the dialogue if you happened to respond with something about your own appearance a certain way. Moving forward though, with Animal Crossing New Horizons, which released in 2020, it did take a step further in challenging typical gender stereotypes, as in this game, players aren't explicitly asked their gender during character creation, and they can choose from a wide range of customizable options. All hairstyles and clothing and accessories are available for any player regardless of their gender identity. And additionally, in Animal Crossing New Horizons, there was the introduction of new villagers with varying appearances that also kind of challenged the traditional gender tropes. For instance, there were some villagers that looked more masculine but were in fact female characters, and then there were some other characters that looked more feminine but were male characters. So this has been an issue in Animal Crossing wherever you stand on the issue of gender identity. Animal Crossing has seen both sides of criticism. In the older Animal Crossing games, there were criticisms that there weren't enough options to break free of traditional gender norms in Animal Crossing, where in the newer games that do have more options, there's the criticism from the other side about how Animal Crossing is going woke. And personally, I think that the later criticism is a weird hill to die on, but I don't know. If you're someone who has a really strong, informative opinion on this, I'd be really interested to hear your comments down below. But for the most part, these are just some of the biggest controversies that have hit Animal Crossing over the years. Now, there are some really interesting things that have also happened that we covered in another video of Animal Crossing fans who took things too far. So if you're looking for the typical space buns debate, which was a huge thing that more the community stressed over, check that video out. There's also some cool, wholesome moments of Animal Crossing fans who took things too far in a different way, which were pretty cool too. Nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe make sure you're subscribed. We haven't even been doing this for a year yet, and it's been a lot of fun. So if you'd like to see more Animal Crossing content like this, the best way to make sure you get it is make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time with a brand new video.